You want to learn how to make this? You're going to love it. All right, how we doing? Chef Chris Holland, chef out of water. It's day 2. Also, I'm the owner of the Baked Alaska restaurant here in Astoria, Oregon, and as many of you know, we are shut down for the foreseeable future. So, we're going to bring some cooking techniques and some ideas into your home via social media. So, Chef Out of Water on the Facebook, and also Chef Out of Water on YouTube. We got a request from Jenny Bergman. Jenny Bergman's for you. We're going to make some pizza dough. We're going to keep it real simple. And here we go. All right. So we're going to do this without any mechanical devices. I just figure that many of you out there may not have a KitchenAid mixer, may not have a stand mixer of any sort. So let's do it by hand. All right. So I got everything pre-measured out. So here we go. 1 tablespoon of active dry yeast. Okay. 1 tablespoon of just plain white sugar. All right. We're going to put in 1 cup of water. Now this water you want to have about room temperature, okay? Not too cold and definitely not hot. It'll kill the yeast. All right. The idea is that we're going to bloom the yeast. It's going to start eating the sugar. This is what it's going to ultimately cause the fermentation and help your pizza dough rise. All right. So we're just going to give it a little bit of a stir. This is where we're at right now. We're just going to let it bloom. It's going to start eating the sugars. It's going to create fermentation. It takes about 3 or 4 minutes to get the fermentation going and get the yeast bloomed. All right, the yeast is bloomed. All right, once again, you want the yeast to eat the sugar. It's going to cause and start the fermentation process. See all the little bubbles in there? That's the air escaping and creating ultimately what's going to cause our pizza dough to rise. All right? Okay, so here we go. 3 cups of flour. Now, I'm using actually a really soft, elastic pizza flour. But you could easily use all-purpose flour at home. It's not a problem. It'll turn out pretty much the same. If you have the pizza flour, you're going to end up with a little less glutinous and a little more, little softer dough. It'll make it a little easier to toss, stretch, or whatever you're going to do with it for your pizza. All right? So, all right, here we go. 1/2 cup of olive oil. All right? This is just a regular kind of a cooking olive oil. It's a light blend. You can use extra virgin if that's what you have. However, you're going to add a fair amount of unnecessary extra olive flavor. It might be a little too olivey, if you will. All right? 1/2 cup of olive oil. All right, we're going to take also 1 tablespoon of salt. Now, we're using our salt. This is our Chef Daddy. It's a blended salt. But you could certainly use whatever salt that you have in your cupboard. That's not a problem at all, all right? I'm going to mix that in. Now, it is important. Salt goes in last. Salt always goes in last. You need to mix it all at the same time. If you let the salt interact directly with the yeast mixture, it will kill the yeast, all right? And your dough will not rise, all right? So, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to lightly mix it by hand. All right, just a little bit in the bowl first. Take a little flour. All right, go ahead and just dust the countertop a little bit. Okay, keep it from sticking. We'll go ahead and just roll this out right on to the counter. All right, go ahead and get it all out of the bowl. I'm using a wooden spoon. It's just what I use. I mean, if you happen to have a different spoon and that's what you prefer, that's all you have, it's not going to be a huge deal, all right? Now, we're going to just we've got it on a lightly floured surface. We're going to start kind of bringing it all together. Now, as I mentioned before, we're going to make this entirely by hand. So you don't need to have a mixer or a KitchenAid or stand mixer like that. You can totally do this by hand. It'll take a little bit longer. And honestly, it's a good exercise, right? Little team effort. You can put the kids on the pizza dough kneading. All right? Here we go. So, the idea is that we're creating a gluten strand in here. All right? This is what will help us when it comes time for our dough to rise. Also have a bit of texture. And I mean, the idea is at the end, right? We're going to have something that is a beautiful hot pizza, but also it'll have a little bit of crunch to it with the olive oil addition, but it'll still be soft at the same time. It's going to be a wonderful outcome, I'm pretty sure. All right, so we're kneading it. What we're going for is elasticity. Basically, this is going to take, you're going to want to go 5-6 minutes to really get that developed. Now, you can, there's a few things we do, like in our restaurant at Baked Alaska, we don't use the sugar part of it, all right? We start the dough, we make it the day before and put it in the refrigerator and let it kind of naturally ferment on its own. But I think all of you might want something a little quicker, a little bit easier. So we cheated just a little bit by adding the sugar to the yeast mixture. That's going to give it something to eat, and it's going to cause it to rise faster. If you decide you don't want to use the sugar aspect and you want to make this a day before, totally fine. Just omit the sugar. Ultimately, what will happen if you choose to go that route, like if you want to have pizza tomorrow night for dinner, go ahead and make your dough now, put it into a lightly oiled pan, and throw it in the refrigerator. All right? It'll slowly ferment. It will develop, honestly, it will develop a little more character and definitely more flavor if you take your time like that. But like I said, you don't have to. You can cheat a little bit. So that's all good. But what will happen if you omit the sugar is there's natural sugars in the flour, and that'll give the yeast something to eat. It just takes a little longer. All right, let me give you a look here. So this dough, you can see it's not totally smooth yet. We want it to be smooth. We want it to kind of bounce back more. I think it's not quite ready. So we're going to keep kneading it a little bit longer. Just back and forth. You can do it right on your countertop. All right, so we got a nice, well-developed dough ball. Okay, that's what we're going for. All right, I'm gonna give it a little. So the idea is that when you push on it, it bounces back, right? We've developed the gluten strand. It's become elastic. All right, now here's the thing though. You cannot immediately roll this into pizza. All right, you need to let it rest a little bit. You need to let it proof. It's going to pretty much double in size, all right? So just right back to the bowl that we started with. Just drop it in there. All righty. We're going to cover it. We're going to cover it with a little plastic wrap. I imagine you don't have one this large at your house, but cover it with a little plastic wrap. You could also cover it with a towel. That would be fine. You don't want it to dry out while it's fermenting, all right? So we're going to come back to this. We'll set it aside, and in the meantime, let's make some pizza sauce. All right, so it would be really important to have a nice red sauce. Technically, we're going to make a pomodoro. Okay, we're going to use plum tomatoes. Now, look, in the store, a smaller can of tomatoes is probably about 15 ounces. All right, we're doing twice that, and I believe you can find a 30-ounce can of plum tomatoes. These are awesome because they're picked at their peak of ripeness and then canned and cooked. So they're really, really ideal. You're going to get the most flavor out of something like that, all right? So we've got 30 ounces of the plum tomato, all right? We're going to take about 5 cloves of garlic, all right? We're just going to give them a quick little smash, all right? A little bit of smash. We got garlic, all right? We're going to give it a quick little rough chop. Now, I'm doing this because we're ultimately going to just do this by hand. Again, you know, as like the pizza dough, we're not going to use any mechanical devices. I want everyone to be able to make this. As long as you got a stovetop, a pan, and some of the ingredients laying around, you are going to be just fine. All right, you're not reliant on having a immersion blender or a Vitamix or anything like that. All right, if you have one, great. If you don't, that's what we're showing you. All right. Okay, so we got a saucepan. We're going to just put a little bit of olive oil in there, just enough, like just coat the bottom of the pan. All right, that's really the gist of it. Kick on the flame, about medium. Got the flame. Okay, we're going to start with the garlic. We're going to get it, just to sweat it briefly, right? We don't want it to burn. If you burn the garlic in the pan, you're going to end up having everything taste burnt, all right? So we don't want to do that, okay? We'll give it another little chop. Just make sure it's all set. Okay, we got that heating up. Okay, here we go. Take your garlic into the pan, all right? I'll show you what it looks like here in a second. We're going to put a little heat on it, and we'll go from there. All right, the garlic in the pan. Just give it a little shake. Like I said, just a little bit of olive oil, and don't burn the garlic. All right, here we go. It's going to kind of have me have a little roasty flavor, but it's really meant to round out the ultimate flavor of the sauce, not necessarily be garlic tomato sauce. All right. Okay, we got a little bit of sweat. We're not quite, you see a little caramelization, etc., but that's kind of the gist of it, all right? Now, tomatoes go in the pot. All right, in the pot, back on the stove. Again, medium, about medium-high right at the moment. We're going to kind of bring it up to a little bit of a simmer. We don't necessarily want it to boil, but we do want some of the liquid to reduce, all right? In the meantime, while this is coming up to temperature, we are going to put a little basil in there. I'm going to show you a couple of tricks here. It's pretty cool. So just pick off the leaves. Pick the leaves off a little bit. We don't necessarily need all of this. We're going to use some. We'll save the rest for something else. We'll circle back around to that. Let's say we pick off maybe about, I don't know, 8 or 10 leaves, something like that. All right. Now, like this, like they do in Cuba, but with basil, all right? Take the biggest leaf on the bottom. Make sure all the stems are facing the same direction, okay? You're going to take and kind of line these up right on top of each other. Stems facing the same direction. There we go. Just like that. Stack them up, okay? That's what you got right there, a little bit of stack. Now, take and go ahead and roll it. Roll it up like that. Then you're going to take and make real thin slices. Okay, this is a technical term known as chiffonade. All right, so we're going to chiffonade the basil. All right, break it up. Again, about 8 or 10 leaves, chiffonade. The stem, now, you want to try to avoid the stem a bit. It may have a bit of bitter flavor, right? Will affect the outcome of your sauce. Okay, so we got the basil in the pot. All right, now we're just going to let that simmer for about, maybe about a half an hour. We'll let it come up to a boil, and then we're going to reduce it down just so it's lightly bubbling on the top of the pan, all right? Also, yes, we are going to season this sauce, but we're going to wait to see what natural flavors come out prior to seasoning. We're going to season it last, all right? We're going to season it as we like to say, to taste. You're going to add a little salt, stir it in, give it a taste. Is it enough? If it's not, add a little more salt. Just a little at a time. It's like cutting a 2x4. You probably want to measure it 2 times before you engage the saw blade, right? So you end up with a board that's too short. You could always add more. You could always cut that board again. Give it we'll probably give it about a minute, and it'll be where we want it, and we'll reduce to a simmer, and then just let it go for a minute. In the meantime, I believe while this is all cooking, we can go ahead and portion out our pizza dough. All right, it's pretty much at a boil. Again, it's on medium-high heat. What we're going to do is go ahead and flick it down a little bit, get it closer to a medium. All right, you're going to have lightly bubble. I like to refer to that as it's smiling, if you will, as opposed to simmering. It's just got a light. You can see some steam coming off. There's a little bit of bubbling around the perimeter. Now, this is a copper pot. You can use anything that you have. Just for a little knowledge, we'll drop a little knowledge on you. Copper is the #1 most heat conductive material when it comes to cooking. So I love these copper pots. Quick little story. My family and I were in on the island of Corsica. It's right in the middle of the Mediterranean. And we were at a swap meet in France, right? How cool is that? And come across this nested set of vintage French copper pots. And, well, I couldn't resist. And they're nested. They fit nicely in my bag, so I went ahead and bought them and brought them home. The sauce is on the stovetop. We're going to go ahead next and portion out our dough. I'm guesstimating this is maybe around, well, we had 3 cups, a cup of water. Water weighs, a cup of water weighs half a pound or 8 ounces. It's literally the same, by the way. If you didn't know that, the volume and the weight of a liquid like water is exactly the same. So if it weighs 8 ounces, it's a cup, just like that. They always say a pint is a pound the world around. So a pint of water or a pint of other things is meant to be also a pound by weight. All right? Now, back to the pizza dough. If you didn't, you'll notice it has nearly doubled in size. All right? It's fermented. I kept this in a kind of a warm spot in the kitchen. I put it on myself. I put it on top of the grill, which has the pilot on, but you may not have that. So find a warm spot. It'll ferment a little better. It'll be nice and warm. All right? Now, you may have not noticed, it's really important to keep clean as you're working in the kitchen. Sanitation. Practice proper sanitation. It'll make you happier at the end of the day when you're working over a bunch of stuff that you did. All right? So clean as you go. Keep it clean. We use a commercial grade sanitizing solution here, but if you need your own, the approximate ratio is a capful of bleach to 1 gallon of room temperature water. That'll keep a great sanitizer, keep everything clean, and keep everybody safe, all right? Okay, we're going to lightly dust the surface of the counter again. We're going to pull the dough out onto here, all right? We're going to give it a quick little knead, nothing major. You don't want to totally deflate it, all right? We're going to create a bit of a spot here, kind of roll it out. What we're going to do is for those of you that have a scale, you're totally welcome to use one. Just weigh the total weight, cut it in half so you have 2 equal portions, all right? But this one we don't, so what we're going to do is just guesstimate the approximate half, all right? And you may have a bench knife at home. I happen to have this really shiny cleaver, but here we go. We'll go in about half, all right? Now, you're going to roll these again into nice little dough balls, all right? Now, what we're going to do, because we're making this again today, we've taken a couple of shortcuts. We're going to roll our dough balls nice and that, still elastic. It springs back when you touch it. It's nice and smooth, okay? And we're going to find a spot here and just rest it on the counter, all right? You can, if you want to make this ahead of time, you can certainly do that. And you can even refrigerate the pizza dough. Obviously, at our restaurant, we make a large volume, and we refrigerate the dough, and it's a little slower process to ferment, but again, it develops more flavor and texture the longer it sits. But since we added both yeast and sugar to this, it's going to be a little faster, all right? So, lightly floured surface so it doesn't stick. Spread them out a little bit, and you can either, again, cover it with a little bit of plastic wrap, which I happen to have, or you could certainly put a towel over it, all right? We just want to keep it from drying out. All right, so this won't take too long. It's going to, again, increase in volume as it ferments. The air is releasing. It's going to increase in volume. If you were to try to make a pizza with this right now, because of the gluten strand that is in this dough, you'll have a really hard time. So not only does it need to kind of increase in size again, but also it needs to relax. It just needs to relax. That's all. There we go. All right, we're probably just about, well, 10 minutes in or so. We're going to let this cook for another 10, 15. Again, we want to reduce some of the liquid off. I'm slowly starting to kind of, you know, again, we're not using mechanical devices. We're just going to grab a whisk, I think, here in a minute and start kind of breaking the tomatoes up. Be a little more country style. Now, if you want to blend your sauce, if you want it smoother, etc., you could certainly use something like a Vitamix, something like that, all right? You could certainly also use what's called an immersion blender. So it's like a stick blender. Many of you might have that. You could put it right down in the pot and blend your sauce that way. In the restaurant, that's what we do. This one's been around a minute. You know, 20 years ago, when we started the Baked Alaska, our business, this is the first thing that I purchased. This thing has been up the Alcan Highway. It has blended, I don't even know, hundreds of gallons of soup and things like that, and it's still cranking. I think it was 20 bucks at a Fry's grocery store in Scottsdale, Arizona. All right, again, we're going to do this by hand. I'm just going to lightly, without making a mess, without burning myself, I'm going to start kind of just pulverizing the sauce, okay? Kind of crush the tomatoes a little bit. That way we'll end up with a bit of a smoother overall pomodoro sauce, all right? You can call it what you want, but we'll call it a pomodoro sauce. Now, here's the cool thing. Feel free to make extra. This actually might be too much. This would be an awesome pasta sauce too. You could save this, make twice the amount, use some for pizza one day, some for spaghetti the next day. It's nice and light, it's flavorful, it's fresh tasting, and I think that's a really good idea. So we're getting pretty close to this thing. Let me give you a peek. All right, I'm going to continue to kind of reduce it down, pulverize it a bit, and create a bit of a smoother sauce. But I kind of like this chunky kind of family style or whatever you want to call it. I mean, we'll call it country style. How about that? But if you like a thicker pizza sauce, you can, by all means, you can keep cooking it down. You can blend it or whatever. I'm pretty happy with this. We're going to go about 5 more minutes on this. It's only been on the stove for maybe 20, and I think we'll be good to go. All right, a couple of things. Number one, we are at that point. Our sauce has thickened up, all right, real nice. Okay, what we want to do now, I think I mentioned before, when you're making something like this, season it last, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to first of all give it a little taste, all right? It's really nice. It's super fresh. You taste the basil, a little bit of garlic. I think we can intensify that flavor just a little bit. We're going to add just a little bit of our salt here. Again, we use Chef Daddy blended sea salt, but again, whatever you have. I like a flake salt better. If you happen to have iodized, that's all good. That's what you have. But if you have a kosher salt, a sea salt, something like that, the idea is we're just going to intensify the flavor. That's really what we want to do, is bring all those flavors out. All right? Again, so stirred it up. We're going to give it another little taste. That's delicious. All right? So that is done. We're going to take it off the heat. We'll just leave it there. Now, let's go ahead. Our pizza dough is super close. If you noticed, it's probably increased in size by about 50%. It's got air in it. This is pretty much ready to go. But just real quick, we're going to go ahead and just use some other ingredients I have laying around. I want you all to know that it's all about what you have. I mean, oftentimes when you read a recipe, you feel obligated to go and buy everything on that list. Well, recipes are meant to be, honestly, foundational. All right? They're foundations. And once you can master a technique, master a classic theory or method, then you can make it your own, right? So as far as this goes, this is what I have, all right? So we have some red onions. We're going to just give those a quick little chop. And as you noticed, I don't know if you know, curl your fingers back, all right? Remember, we don't want to cut ourselves in this whole process, all right? I think that we're going to make this vegetarian. In fact, my daughter Anna is here right now, so she's vegetarian and probably thinking about lunch right at this moment. So we're just going to go vegetarian. But again, put whatever you want on this pizza. This is just meant to give you some ideas on how to make the dough, how to make the sauce, and then from there, you make it your own. What do you have laying around? Do you have artichoke hearts? Do you have some smoked salmon? Do you have, what do you got? All right. So also, I got some bell pepper. All right. Let's go ahead and give this a, okay. Now this is how I do it. Again, be careful. Keep your fingertips back. But if you do it that way, this is the part we were going to get rid of. That goes there. Now, same kind of cut. We're going to take a little bit of the white out like that. Again, watch your fingers. We're going to julienne cut. All right. Nice little strips. I think one bell pepper will cover both of these pizzas. Okay. Again, get rid of a little of the white. This the white, kind of like the stems of the basil, can come off as a little bit bitter. So if you want to avoid that, go ahead and just take a little bit of the white out. All right. I think that one's pretty good. So here we go. All right, so we have bell peppers and red onions, all prepped and ready to go. Mushrooms. I have some cremini. This is really a small portobello mushroom. All right, cute little bugger, right? It's not a button. It's more of a brown mushroom. You might find it. All right. Great way to cut this, by the way. Okay, it's round. It's hard to hold. It's going to roll around a bit. Go ahead and slice off the edge. Let it help you. Let it help you cut this up. Slice off the edge. Get a flat surface. From there, you can easily cut your mushrooms. All right, get nice slices. Again, curl your fingers back so that we don't have a situation. Probably enjoy having dinner as opposed to nursing a unnecessary cut. All right. All right. So these are the three primary ingredients we're going to do. Now, I do have some cheeses, but I'm going to circle back around to that here in just a second. All right. Knife goes down. We'll go ahead and set this aside for a moment, and it's ready to go. All right. Again, clean as you go. Here we are. Our dough, as I mentioned, has increased in size. We're going to do a couple different things. Number one, I'm going to show you a probably a more comfortable way to roll the dough out. So again, a little bit, just dust the flour on the surface lightly. Okay. Just drop it down. Now, here we go. A little bit on the old knuckle with it. So just kind of slightly, just real lightly kind of start to spread it out. Okay. What we're doing, we're kind of redistributing the gluten. All right. You don't want to overwork it. Otherwise, you won't be able to toss it. All right. So what we're going to do so that everyone at home is comfortable with this is we're going to do the whole rolling pin thing on the first one. And then I'll show you, if you really want to get into it, start making pizza a lot at home, then you can certainly start to hand toss it. All right, we'll get there in a second though. But for the moment, we're going to just kind of spread this out. We're going to make a bit of a, try to make it a circle anyway. It also needs to fit on the pan that we have to work with. I'm pretty happy with that. All right. It's nice and smooth. We're going to use, most of you likely have some baking sheets at home that fit in your oven, so we're just going to lightly spray it. All right, you can use whatever you got. You got Pam. This one's a canola oil-based spray. So that we're just kind of spray the pan. All right. Pizza dough goes on. All right. So that's that one. All right. Similar outcome. If you want, you're feeling daring, all right, you can start to do these by hand, okay? So instead of using a rolling pin, do start in the same spot as you were, and then you're going to pick it up. Now, no fingertips. You want to use the balls of your finger, all right? You're going to slowly start to do that. We don't want to pop holes in it, and we want it to be evenly distributed. So it cooks the same, and each bite is the same texture, all right? You can slowly spread it out. It's getting bigger and bigger, all right? You ready for it? Wait for it. Okay, and at this point, we're going to start to toss the pizza dough, all right? We'll toss it. Again, no fingertips. Try to use the balls of here, like first knuckle, all right? And it'll be nice and even. And we're going to have a very similar outcome as if you had used the rolling pin, but this might be a little more fun. But I don't know how tall are your ceilings in your house. You feel like living on the edge, right? All right, same deal. Let's just kind of oil it up just a little bit, all right? You can certainly, if you don't have something like that, you could certainly just use a vegetable oil, olive oil, and just kind of rub your pan. That'll keep your pizza from sticking. That's the whole goal there, all right? Real similar, a little more like the sauce, a little more country style. All right, here we go. We got our pizza sauce. There's a finished product. That's wonderful. It's real nice. It's gotten thicker. We did it all by hand, all right? No blender, no mechanical devices, any of that. I got a ladle here, okay? And we're now going to spread the sauce out all the way. You know, this is also up to you. Do you like the sauce? This is your chance to also make this your own. Do you like the sauce all the way to the edge, or do you want to leave a little bit of crust? Okay, I like it like that, so that's what I'm going to do. All right, lovely. All right, now again, look, there's that much less. That's easy. Tomorrow, guess what? Do spaghetti. Do penne pasta. Do something like that. Use the same sauce. Follow the instructions on the pasta packet, and you can make pasta. All right, we have in here, we got some mozzarella. All right, we got mozzarella. I happen to have a little fontina as well. Okay, again, you're not stuck with these. What do you have? And if you're going to the store, then you certainly pick that up. But if not, what do you got laying around? All right, Parmesan. You like light cheese? Perhaps goat cheese. It's really going to be entirely up to you. Okay, make it your own. Okay. All right, we got our pizzas. Now, let's bring our ingredients back down. We're going to kind of spread these out a little bit between the two. We'll just make them even. We're making the same two. You make what you want, all right? You want one different than the other, half and half. This is your pizza, all right? Do what you want. You happen to have pepperoni, charcuterie, Italian sausage, artichoke hearts. It's really entirely up to you. Okay. Okay, we got lovely. Got some mushrooms, bell pepper, onion. Okay, now, look. Pizza, hot and fast. That's my opinion. I've turned the oven on already, so you want to preheat your oven so it's ready when you're ready to cook your pizza. I turned it on already to 400 degrees. I have a convection oven. That's Fahrenheit, by the way. I have a convection oven, and typically a convection oven is hotter than 400 degrees. It's going to be more 425, even 450, all right? If you don't have a convection oven, if you have a conventional oven at home, I think 400 is a really great temperature for pizza, all right? It'll work out just fine. So we got one. Let's go ahead and we'll get them both in there. All right. Now, with bread and with pizza, let's leave it alone for about 6 or 7 minutes. Don't open the oven back up. Give it a chance to puff, to proof, and then it'll set, and that'll be the size and the thickness that it will be. Once you put bread or pizza in the oven, it's going to immediately grow again, all right? So, but after a few minutes, it'll stop growing and start to crust, all right? So just leave it alone for 6, 7 minutes, and then we'll have a look. the pizza's real close. What I'm going to do, because I think it adds a little extra texture, a little flavor, is we're going to get it out of the oven. All right. Oh, man. Holy cow, look at that. We're going to go ahead. It's going to go back in for a couple of minutes, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to olive oil the crust, all right? So I just put some oil in a glass here or container of some sort. With a spoon, you can kind of just give it a little. This is going to add, it's going to be really nice. So let's do that, and then we're going to throw it back in just briefly, like 2 minutes, and then we are good to go. All right? So a little briefly, just a couple minutes. It's me. I like a little extra pop. I'm going to go ahead and just give it a little more sea salt right on top. It's not really even going to melt. You'll actually get that pop in your mouth. Sea salt. Optional, of course. It's optional. Again, make this pizza your own. All right. It's been in the oven maybe, look, it's hard to tell you how long. Like I said, 6-7 minutes, and then check it, all right? You can flip it around. Everyone's oven is different. It's the same with cooking a lot of different things. You can read a recipe, and it tells you to cook X amount of time. Well, in what oven? In whose oven? Everything varies a little bit. Sometimes an oven is off by 25 degrees. Just, it is what it is, right? So it's good to kind of keep an eye on it, and then you cook it until it's what you want. Oh man, that looks pretty awesome. We're going to go ahead and take that right off the cutting board, right onto the cutting board. All right, we'll let it cool just slightly. Well, no, not really. I'm hungry. So, and then there you have it. You cut it as many pieces as you want, obviously. All right, and give it a little turn. Let's go for 6. There it is. Check that out. Oh man. Doesn't it look awesome? I'm excited and hungry. So here we go. Onto a plate. Just like that. It's a good way to go. Again, keep an eye on that blade so if you're going to use a knife for that, you're not cutting yourself, all right? But there it is. Make a nice salad to go with this. Make sure all the kids are having their salad first, then you can get into the pizza. Nice and healthy. It's got a lot of vegetables. It's got a nice crust. You'll be filling. And that's pizza. That's a wrap.